In today's episode, I'm talking to Philip Kangulu, General Manager of SERMALO Group in Malawi. We'll be discussing patient pathways, healthcare setup in Africa, and also his experience of running a call center in Malawi that's servicing the market research industry. Thank you, Philip, for joining us today. I just wanted to find out from you, just so at least people should know who you are, the company you work for, and what exactly is it that you do. So if you could just give us a quick introduction, Phil, that would be great. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Peter. First off, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's an absolute pleasure. I've been catching up with some of the episodes that you've done before, and absolute pleasure to be here. My name is Philip Kangulu. I'm the manager at SERMALO Group. We are a group of companies based in Serbia, but I'm based in the Malawi office in Blantyre. Malawi is in Africa, and we are part of a group of companies of which FieldScope, I believe, which is the research arm of the company, is one of. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much for that. Now let's just get stuck into it, because the reason why I wanted to be on the show is that I get asked a lot of questions about Africa. I'm African myself. Yes, I did grow up in London. I now have expanded some businesses abroad, but I'm African at my core. So people expect me to know these things. But I thought to myself, let me bring somebody who's actually in Africa, in Malawi, to tell us about this. So we all know, Phil, that Africa is a more and more of a lucrative hub when it comes to investments and business. In our industry, in market research, I personally have noticed a huge increase when it comes to RFQs, or when it comes to questions or advice, or just investments in particular. Let's focus it mainly on market research and healthcare market research. I get asked all the time, what are the healthcare matrices that we have in Africa as a continent? Now, I can't answer that for every different country because there's 50 odd of them. But for Malawi in particular, Phil, could you give us your view of how the Malawi healthcare system is built up?
I mean, it's interesting that you say it's difficult for Africa. It's also difficult for Malawi because there's so many ways of looking at the healthcare system. But just to give you a quick overview of what happens, basically, you've got the private sector in as far as private hospitals and private clinics, and you've got the public sector. In the public sector, it's been, despite what people think, I think it's actually quite organized in terms of local clinics. The person is sick in the locations, in the villages, they go to the local health center, where they're referred to a referral hospital. If it's serious enough, it cannot be treated at that level, it goes to a referral hospital where they're treated. If it's not treated there properly, again, they're referred to a central hospital, of which the major cities in Malawi have got central Queen Elizabeth Central Hospital, we've got in the Longo go one, in Zuzu go one, Zomba. So we've got these health facilities that deal with the serious illnesses, the cancers, the HIVs, the TBs. So people actually go through these stages before they get to where they need to be. Obviously, they're fast-tracked. If someone is really ill in the villages, they're fast-tracked straight to a central hospital where they get treatment. And the central hospitals in Malawi are also quite well-funded. Obviously, there's a lot of problems still, because as you can imagine, the amount of people who are all living in the same space wanting service from this one hospital. So they're understaffed and they don't have enough medicines and all that. But in my personal view, I've been to the government hospitals, and I don't see them to be worse off as opposed to private hospitals, to be perfectly honest. The system is there, all the doctors are there, all the equipment is there. So yeah, that's in the public sector. So the healthcare system in Malawi is actually quite, I mean, the structure is there. It's just maybe one or two people come in and it's African. Like otherwise, it's very much in place.
Great. So from what I understood, it's similar to how the UK is based, where the UK is built. So you're saying that if you go see a GP, if your condition is diagnosed, you then referred to a specialist. Is that correct? So for example, let's say, I don't know, I've got a really bad chesty cough. So I go see my GP, and if that's an infection or something that maybe is a bit more severe, would he then refer me to a pulmonologist or a cardiac, or I guess somebody who specialize in dealing with respiratory or pulmonary conditions? Is that how it's based?
Yes, it is. Peter, you go to a GP, they'll refer you to an ENT specialist who will take you on if there's any need to a central hospital or to a hospital that will deal with those particular problems. But that's the structure. Yes.
Okay. Just so I can clarify as well, Phil, is it because obviously, you know, the US is private, right? So private healthcare system, if I'm not mistaken. The UK is part of NHS, so it's funded by the government. So is that the structure in Malawi? Which structure is it in Malawi? Is it all private? Is it public, or is it split? What would you describe it as?
It's very much split.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. It is interesting because we sometimes need this information, but we don't know where to find it, right? It's not online. It has to be very practical. It has to be hands-on. So it's very interesting to get somebody in Malawi explaining to us how the healthcare system works in Malawi, which is one of an African country that maybe a client would want to actually do some studies in. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to move on to my next questions. Let's talk about call centers. I know, Phil, at the moment you're operating a call center for Fieldscope International in Malawi. Talk to me about that. What is your experience? What do you want to tell us about the call centers in Malawi? What's your experience on that?
Most call centers in Malawi are consumer call centers that are in-house. The company will have a call center to answer queries. What we're running here is actually more than a call center. It's a center where we're making calls internationally. We're an international company, being SERMALO Group, based in Serbia and in Malawi. So coming into Malawi was it was a new thing, really. And we've been a year now, and I still spend a lot of time explaining to people exactly how it works. And most people are interested in the pitfalls, and most people are interested to know what hurdles we've come through in terms of building this center here in Malawi, which I would say is quite successful. We started off with just one person making some phone calls, but now we've got a whole team of 7, and these people are the departments within Malawi office, all operating under that same call center to do different tasks that are required. Obviously, being Africa, being Malawi, we've got issues of electricity, for example, which is a very common issue here in these parts of Africa. I think it's a problem that's not just in Malawi. We've got it in Zambia, we've got it in Mozambique, we've got it. This part of Africa has got this problem, which has been a big hindrance for development, for especially tertiary industry, which relies on internet, electricity, those kind of things. So we've had those issues in terms of electricity blackouts. We've come in and we've got backups, and we've got ways of making sure that they don't affect us as much. The other issue may be technology in terms of the structure, the infrastructure, and the hyperstructure of the technologies in Malawi being a bit of a problem. But to be honest, it's not been a problem too much. We have survived. We're here, we're growing, and prospects just look bright.
Great. No, I mean, Big Phil, the thing about it as well is that I think internet has come from far, because for us to being able to having a conversation that's uninterrupted like this, it's from when I see 10 years ago, like you said, fiber optics wasn't available, but now we have all these fast internet and these technologies. So I think it is getting there, if not there already. I think Malawi should now be, or actually Africa, should be considered a serious partner when it comes to market research, when it comes to healthcare market research in particular. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. Could not agree more, Peter. It's Africa, the BDO market, like business processing outsourcing as a whole, is a growing phenomenon. It's one of the fastest growing And we've got an estimated market value of apparently $3 billion I read somewhere, and a growth potential of 25% annually from 2015 going forward. So it's a growing market. It's in Africa, Malawi, it's untapped, and there's a lot of youth who are willing to learn and do call center work. I mean, you don't get that in Europe anymore. And just apart from that, the biggest research markets are probably still the US and Europe. So Africa, most of Africa, the time zone is not too different to, say, Europe. So it's very possible to do an hour difference with the UK, which is, for our company anyway, our biggest client base is in the UK. So an hour away. It doesn't really make much of a difference in terms of how we can structure our HR to service that market. I mean, also, I spoke about the internet earlier, but now we've got really cheap and quick internet. It's just happened a few months ago. There's been a big breakthrough somehow in technologies, and we're able to get really cheap. That's why you and me are able to speak on this phone uninterrupted. I mean, we use technologies. The call center, as you can imagine, it's all very much computer-based, all very much internet-based. We've got applications and internet-based work processes in all our computers, but they work very much okay now.
Great, thanks for answering that. Another thing as well, if you mentioned Europe, the US, you're a traveled man yourself, I believe. You've been all the way from China to London to many other countries, I'm sure. But for a person like you who's well-traveled and has now gone back to Malawi to settle, to work, and to develop things there, what are you saying to people about business in Malawi in particular? What's your feedback for somebody who's traveled and has come back?
There's a lot of readjusting in terms of just understanding yourself. I mean, in terms of business, Malawi and Africa is a high context of understanding the culture, understanding the people, understanding the social needs, understanding the languages. It's extremely important. I believe anyone coming to Africa to do business would be wise partner with a local, someone who's been there or someone who's come from there, someone who has local knowledge. I don't see why a company from Switzerland would want to come to Malawi and maybe would want to bridge that gap by meeting someone like you, for example, who has been to both worlds, who knows what's going on, because you'll be able to guide them and say, okay, you go to this office, you go to that office, you go to this, and that's how it started.
Great, thanks, Phil, for that. I think you've really given us an overview of what to expect, in particular when it comes to market research healthcare in Malawi. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time joining us today. I'm sure you've answered some crucial questions in people's mindsets and people's minds out there when it comes to how to do research or how to build a call center in Malawi, or things to look out for when you're doing business in Africa. So thank you very much, Phil. I'll let you get on with your day, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thank you very, very much for doing the program. We're enjoying it. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thanks, Phil. Take care.
Cheers now.